Imagine this. You're in the middle of a perfectly peaceful dream.
Oh, the best kind.
Right. The room is quiet, the temperature is just right, and you are drifting in that glorious state of deep sleep. And then out of nowhere, you wake up with a furry 10-pound creature draped directly across your
A
face.
very familiar feeling for a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe, they're firmly planted on your chest, just staring down at you in the pitch black. We have all been there. It is the universal, slightly suffocating experience of living with a cat.
It really is.
But, why do they do this? Are we just a mattress to them? Or is there some deeply tactical, biologically reason your cat treats your head like a sleeping bag?
It's definitely not just random.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to figure out today. Welcome to the deep dive. And today we are doing a highly focused, roughly 9-minute deep dive tailored specifically for the audience over at the YouTube channel, The Cat Planet 24.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, we are pulling from veterinary science, behavioral studies, and feline psychology to translate your cat's bedtime behavior once and for all, because I know the Cat Planet 24 community loves getting into the actual science of their pets.
And it really is a fascinating phenomenon to look into because on the surface, it just looks like your cat is being affectionate or, maybe just a bit demanding.
Very demanding, usually.
Right. But when we look at the underlying research, we see a highly complex set of behaviors. I mean, we are dealing with an animal that operates on a completely different biological rhythm than we do.
Which is putting it mildly.
Yeah, and one that is constantly mapping out the thermal, olfactory, and social geography of your bedroom.
Okay, let's unpack this by starting with the physical side of things. Because before we jump to the conclusion that my cat sleeps on my chest because they, deeply love my personality, we have to look at raw feline biology.
We do.
From the sources we're looking at, it seems like maintaining body temperature is basically a full-time job for a cat.
It's a phenomenal metabolic tax. Honestly, it takes a lot out of them. And what's fascinating here is that the domestic cat's basal body temperature is significantly higher than ours.
Wait, really? By how much?
Well, a healthy human sits around, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, but a cat's normal body temperature ranges between 101.5 degrees and 102.5 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow, so that's a massive difference. That's like a mild fever for us.
It is. And to understand why, we have to look at their evolutionary history. The domestic cat, Felis catus, is descended from the African wildcat.
Felis sylvestris libica, right.
Exactly. And these are desert-dwelling animals.
Mm.
So they evolved in environments with scorching days and freezing nights.
Which means they have to be incredibly adaptable to temperature swings.
Right. And because they're relatively small mammals, they have what we call a high surface area to volume ratio, which is, it's a physics term, meaning they lose body heat to the surrounding air very, very quickly.
Oh, I see. They don't have the mass to hold on to the heat.
Exactly. To maintain that internal furnace of 102 degrees, especially when they're resting and their metabolism naturally slows down, they have to seek out external heat sources.
Or else what? They
Yeah.
just get cold.
Or else their bodies have to burn precious calories just to shiver and stay warm. And in the wild, wasting calories is dangerous.
So that perfectly explains why, you will always find a cat lying in that one single square of sunlight on the living room rug.
Moving inch by inch as the sun crosses the sky.
Yeah. Or why they insist on sleeping on top of a laptop keyboard while you're trying to type. I mean, they are just seeking out an external power source to save energy.
That is the biological imperative at work right there. When the sun goes down and the laptops are closed, you basically become the warmest thing in the room.
Because I'm trapped under a blanket?
Right. When you are under a thick duvet, your body heat gets trapped and radiates upward. So to a cat, your bed is a thermal oasis in a cold desert.
That makes total sense.
And this behavior actually goes all the way back to kittenhood. Like newborn kittens are born without the ability to fully regulate their own body temperature.
Wait, they can't regulate it at all?
No, they actually cannot shiver for the first few days of life. So they rely entirely on the queen, their mother, and the rest of their litter mates. They huddle together in a tight pile to share body heat and survive.
Okay, wait, I'm having a hard time believing that it is just a pure transaction, though.
How do you mean?
Like, if they just want a heat source, why do they have to sleep on me? I have a radiator in my bedroom. I have heated blankets. If I'm just a giant breathing space heater to them, why don't they just go sleep on the literal space heater?
That brings up a brilliant point, actually. And it bridges us from thermodynamics into neurobiology. Because it's not just about the heat itself, it is about what the heat represents.
Which is?
The heat of a living body is tied to something far more important in the feline world, and that is scent. If we connect this to the bigger picture of feline communication, a cat's primary way of understanding the world is factory.
So through their nose.
Yes, they engage in a behavior known as allo-rubbing.
Allo-rubbing. Okay, what exactly is that?
In feral colonies, cats that belong to the same social group will constantly rub their bodies against one another.
Oh, like when they weave between each other's legs?
Exactly. Cats have specialized sebaceous glands concentrated on their cheeks, their chins, their flanks, and even their paw pads.
So they're covered in these glands.
They are. And these glands secrete pheromones, which are chemical messengers that other cats can read. So by rubbing against each other, they are blending their individual pheromones to create what behaviorists call a colony scent.
A colony scent. So it's like a shared communal perfume.
That's a great way to put it.
I see. So it acts as a biological passport. It's a way for them to instantly smell another cat and know, okay, you belong in my group, you're not a threat.
Yes, absolutely. And they process this scent through an incredibly specialized organ called the vomeronasal organ, or Jacobson's organ.
Where is that located?
It's actually in the roof of their mouth. When a cat wants to deeply analyze a scent, they open their mouth slightly and curl back their upper lip.
Oh, I've seen that. They look like they're making a weird, disgusted face.
Yeah, it's called a Fleeman response.
Yeah.
They are literally pulling the pheromones into this organ, which connects directly to the amygdala, which is the emotional center of their brain.
That's wild.
So when they create this colony scent, it isn't just a smell. It is a neurological trigger that physically tells their brain they are safe.
Hold on, though. If they just want to mix scents, why don't they just rub against my shoes or, like, my laundry basket? Those things smell strongly like me. Why do they have to do it by sleeping directly on my face or my chest while I am completely vulnerable in bed?
Because your laundry basket is cold and the scent is stagnant.
Oh, right.
When a cat sleeps on your head or your chest, they're getting the best of both worlds. They get the active, radiating body heat we discussed, combined with the absolute highest concentration of your biological signature.
As of the sweat and oils.
Exactly. Your head, your hair, the nape of your neck. These are areas where human oils, sweat, and scent are incredibly active. By pressing their scent glands against your face and mixing their fur with your hair, they are actively weaving you into their family tree.
Wow.
Yeah, they're physically marking you as a core member of their inner circle.
That completely reframes the whole experience for me. Like when I wake up and my cat is practically suffocating me, they're actually just bathing me in family pheromones to prove we belong together.
It is a highly intimate act of social bonding. But, this raises an important question about the nature of that bond itself.
Right, because cats get a bad rap.
They really do. For centuries, cats have been saddled with this reputation of being aloof, solitary, and entirely self-serving.
Yeah, popular culture always tells us that cats don't really love us. They just tolerate us because we have opposable thumbs and can operate the can opener.
Right, the classic dogs have masters, cats have staff joke.
Exactly, and I've always thought that was a bit unfair, but when you look at how independent they are, you can kind of see why people believe it. So if we look past the body heat and the pheromone passports, is there genuine emotional affection happening when they choose to sleep with us?
This is where we see a massive paradigm shift in modern veterinary science. That myth of the aloof cat is entirely false.
Really? Entirely?
Yes. To understand why, we have to look at where cats sit in the food chain. They are what we call mesopredators.
Mesopredators, meaning they're somewhere in the middle.
Well, to be precise, they are both fierce predators and highly vulnerable prey.
Oh, that's an intense combination.
It is. In the wild, they hunt smaller animals like rodents and birds, but they are simultaneously hunted by larger predators.
Like coyotes or eagles.
Yeah, coyotes, foxes, wolves, or large birds of prey. Because they have to constantly scan the horizon for threats, they are wired for hypervigilance.
Which means sleeping has to be incredibly dangerous for them.
It is the absolute most vulnerable state a cat can be in. I mean, an apex predator, like a lion, can pass out in the middle of the savannah for 13 hours a day without a care in the world.
Because nothing hunts a lion.
Exactly. But a domestic cat's ancestors had to literally sleep with one eye open. Their sleep architecture is actually different from ours.
How so?
They have a polyphasic sleep pattern, meaning they take multiple short naps rather than one long consolidated block of sleep like we do.
Hence the term catnap.
Precisely. And they spend much of that time in a light, slow-wave sleep, where their ears act like radar dishes, constantly rotating to pick up the sounds of approaching danger.
So for a cat to actually let its guard down, close its eyes, and fall into deep REM sleep, they have to feel completely 100% secure.
Exactly. They are hardwired to seek absolute security before they allow themselves to become defenseless. So when your cat chooses to sleep on you, literally placing their vital organs right next to yours, dropping their guard and falling into a deep sleep, it means they have designated you as their ultimate safe haven.
Here's where it gets really interesting. In the sources we pulled for today, there's this fascinating study from Dr. Kristen Veitel.
Oh, yes, from Oregon State.
Right, a researcher who did her PhD in feline psychology at the University of Oregon. She actually set out to measure this exact type of emotional attachment.
It's a fantastic study.
And from what I read, she essentially proved that cats form bonds with us that look exactly like the bonds human babies form with their parents.
That is correct. Dr. Vitel's study is a landmark piece of research in the field. She used a classic psychological framework called the secure base test.
Wait, I remember reading about this in a college psychology class. Wasn't that originally designed by Mary Ainsworth back in the 1970s to test human toddlers?
It was. Ainsworth developed the strange situation procedure to observe attachment relationships between a caregiver and a child.
How does that work, exactly?
The core idea is that a child should use their primary caregiver as a secure base from which to explore a new, potentially scary environment. If the child gets frightened, they will retreat to the caregiver for comfort.
Okay, that makes sense for a human baby.
Right. And Dr. Vital adapted this exact methodology for domestic cats.
That is wild. How do you even put a cat through a human toddler psychology test?
They placed a cat and its owner in a completely unfamiliar, novel room. Now, for a cat, an unknown territory is deeply stressful. They are completely out of their element.
Because they haven't marked it with their scent yet.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the owner sits in a circle in the middle of the room for 2 minutes. Then the owner leaves the room, leaving the cat entirely alone for 2 minutes. This is the stressor phase.
Oh, poor things.
And finally, the owner returns for a 2-minute reunion phase.
So they're basically measuring how the cat reacts to being abandoned and then how it reacts when the human comes back. I imagine the cats were absolutely freaking out when they were left alone.
They were. In feline behavioral metrics, stress looks very specific. The cats in the alone phase exhibited high distress.
Like meowing a lot.
Loud vocalizations, pacing the perimeter of the room, or just freezing entirely in place.
The classic fight, flight, or freeze.
Right. But the breakthrough came during the reunion phase. When the owners returned, over 65% of the cats immediately went to their human to be comforted.
And did it work? Like, did the human presence actually calm them down?
Measurably so.
Yeah.
These cats showed a massive, rapid reduction in stress behaviors. Once they made physical contact with their owner and felt reassured, they actually gained the confidence to walk away and start exploring the unfamiliar room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, periodically looking back or returning to the owner to just check in. This is the exact definition of secure attachment.
I am amazed the percentage was that high, honestly. 65% is huge.
It is actually the exact same percentage of human infants that show secure attachment to their parents in the original Ainsworth studies.
Wait, exactly the same. That's incredible.
It proves that a cat's attachment behavior is highly flexible and deeply emotional. Sleeping on you isn't just a biological trick to stay warm. It is a profound display of emotional dependency.
So they really do love us.
They do. When they are stressed or anxious or just seeking comfort, they seek out their primary caregiver, which is their secure base.
So we are their trusted safe space, their biological radiator, and their surrogate parent all rolled into one.
That sums it up perfectly.
But that brings up a really logistical, almost funny question.
Okay, let's hear it.
If we are their ultimate sanctuary, why do they choose such specific and sometimes incredibly inconvenient parts of our bodies to sleep on?
Ah, yes. The geography of the bed.
Right. Because anyone who has owned a cat knows there is a literal map of the bed. Some cats are chest sleepers, some are foot sleepers, and some are face huggers. According to our sources, these locations aren't random at all. Every single spot on the bed has a specific tactical meaning.
You're right, the geography of the bedroom is incredibly important to a feline mind. It is a literal tactical map. Let's start with the chest, which many pet parents consider the most endearing spot.
Oh, without a doubt. The chest is the sweet spot. You know, you're lying on your back, the cat is curled up right over your heart, tucked under your chin, purring like a V8 engine. It does not get better than that.
It's very peaceful.
But what's the biological driver there? Is it just because the chest is a wide, flat surface?
It is much deeper than that.
Hmm.
When a cat sleeps on your chest, they are seeking out a multi-sensory environment. They're feeling the rhythmic sound of your heartbeat and the steady mechanical rise and fall of your breathing.
Okay, but why is that specifically comforting to them?
To understand why this is comforting, we have to look back at kittenhood again. When a kitten is nursing, they are pressed against their mother's chest and belly.
Right, in that little huddle.
Yes. They are surrounded by the physical sensation of her heart beating and her lungs expanding.
So it's essentially nostalgic for them.
It is. Your chest perfectly mimics that maternal environment.
Hmm.
Furthermore, when you breathe in and out, the gentle rocking motion stimulates the cat's vestibular system, which is deeply soothing.
The vestibular system, that's in the inner ear, right? Controlling balance.
Exactly. Some behaviorists even believe that the sound of the human heartbeat might stimulate the cat's vagus nerve, which helps regulate their parasympathetic nervous system.
Which is the rest and digest system.
Right. It triggers deep, primal memories of absolute safety.
Okay, the chest makes total sense. It's like returning to the nest. But what about the head? Because this is the one that always completely baffles me.
The facehuggers.
Yes. You go to sleep as a normal person, and you wake up wearing a feline hat. They are literally wrapped around your skull or sleeping on the pillow right above your hair. Why the head?
Well, the head is actually a brilliant choice from the cat's perspective for a few distinct reasons. First, let's go back to thermodynamics.
Oh, the heat radiator thing.
Exactly. The human head is a massive heat radiator. When you're asleep, the rest of your body is heavily insulated by pajamas, sheets, and thick blankets.
So the heat is trapped.
That traps the heat. But your head and face are exposed to the ambient air. Your body is actively releasing a tremendous amount of thermal energy through your scalp right into the pillow.
That makes sense.
So the cat, acting as the ultimate heat-seeking missile, is simply tapping into the most accessible, uninsulated heat source in the room.
I can see the logic there, but it still feels like there has to be more to it. Like, is there a tactical reason they want to be all the way up near the headboard?
Very much so. Think about the physical layout of a typical bedroom.
Okay.
The headboard is almost always pushed against a solid wall, right? And the pillows are usually the highest point on the mattress. By sleeping on or above your head, the cat is claiming the highest, most fortified vantage point in the territory.
Ah, so it's like a sniper tower.
That is a great analogy. In the wild, cats prefer to rest in trees or on high boulders. Elevation equals safety.
Because they can see everything coming.
Exactly. When they're on your pillow, they have their back protected by a solid wall, eliminating the threat of a rear ambush. At the same time, they have a clear, elevated line of sight down the length of the bed directly to the bedroom door.
So they can watch for intruders?
Right. Plus, they love the texture of human hair, which mimics the feeling of grooming their litter mates. And strategically, being right next to your face allows them to easily monitor your facial twitches and changes in your breathing.
Wait, really? Why do they care about my breathing?
They know exactly the second you are waking up.
Oh my gosh. So they get the high ground, a warm scalp, and they get to monitor my REM cycles so they know exactly when to start begging for breakfast.
Pretty much.
That is terrifyingly smart. But what about the other end of the spectrum? A lot of cats absolutely refuse to sleep near the face. They will only sleep down by your feet or pinned between your calves. What is the psychology there?
Sleeping at the foot of the bed is often what behaviorists classify as a watchdog or guard duty position. Again, we go back to the mesopredator instinct.
Always on high alert.
Yes. Cats are hyper-aware of their environment. By sleeping at your feet, they are positioning themselves at the frontier of the bed, usually between you and the primary entrance to the room.
So they are literally standing guard over us.
They are. They're actively protecting you while maintaining a crucial tactical advantage, which is a quick exit route.
Oh, because if they're on my chest, they have to climb over me to escape.
Exactly. If a perceived threat enters the room, whether that's a strange noise, a dog, or a roommate walking down the hall, the cat can instantly spring out of bed and flee without having to navigate over the obstacle course of your torso and legs.
That's smart.
It is a sign of independent security. They trust you enough to share the bed, but they want to maintain their tactical readiness.
That is fascinating. They're treating the bed like a military compound. But before we move on from the head and the face, there is something critical in our sources that we really need to highlight.
Yes, the medical distinction.
Exactly. We have been talking a lot about cats rubbing their heads on us, which is adorable. But veterinary science makes a very urgent, distinct separation here between two similar-looking behaviors. There's a massive difference between a cat gently rubbing its head on you and a cat firmly pressing its head against a solid object.
I'm incredibly glad you brought this up, because this is an absolute medical red flag that every pet owner needs to understand perfectly.
Yeah, let's get into it.
When your cat comes up to you and gently bumps their forehead or their cheeks against your chin, your nose, or your hand, that is called head bunting. As we discussed with allo-rubbing, this is an affectionate behavior used to deposit F3 facial pheromones.
Right, that's the normal, healthy stuff. It's a sign of love.
Yes, but the other behavior, head pressing, is completely different.
It is entirely different and incredibly dangerous, right?
It is. If you ever observe your cat staring blankly at a wall, a door, a piece of furniture, or even a hard pillow, and they are firmly pressing their forehead against that flat surface for long periods of time without moving, that is head pressing.
So they're not just rubbing against it and walking away.
No, they're not depositing scent. They are pressing hard. This is a severe medical emergency.
Let me make sure I understand the mechanics of this, because I want our listeners to really grasp the gravity of it. Why are they pressing their heads? Does it make them feel better, or is it like compulsion?
It is a profound neurological compulsion, usually driven by intense intracranial pressure or pain.
Like a migraine, but worse.
Much worse. Head pressing is a primary clinical sign of forebrain disease or severe toxicity. It can indicate a brain tumor, encephalitis, which is inflammation of the brain, or something very specific called hepatic encephalopathy.
Hepatic encephalopathy. Hepatic means liver, right?
Yes.
How does a liver problem cause a cat to press its head against a wall?
Well, the liver is the body's primary filtration system. One of its main jobs is to take ammonia, which is a highly toxic byproduct of digesting protein, and convert it into urea so it can be safely excreted in the urine.
Okay, that makes sense.
If the liver begins to fail due to disease, poisoning, or a congenital shunt, it stops filtering that ammonia. The ammonia builds up in the bloodstream and crosses the blood-brain barrier.
Oh, wow. So the brain is literally being bathed in toxin.
Exactly. When ammonia enters the brain tissue, it causes cells called astrocytes to swell. This leads to massive brain swelling, cerebral edema, and severe neurological dysfunction.
That sounds horrific.
It is. The cat becomes disoriented, confused, and experiences immense pressure inside their skull. The head pressing is a mechanical, reflexive attempt to relieve that pressure or cope with the agonizing pain.
So what should someone do if they see this?
If you ever see your cat head pressing, you do not wait to see how they feel in the morning. You must take them to an emergency veterinary clinic immediately. It is life-threatening.
That is such a vital distinction. Head bunting is love. Head pressing is a neurological emergency. I'm so glad we clarified the mechanics of that.
It's crucial information.
So let's pivot back to the bedroom dynamics. We've mapped out why a single cat chooses the chest, the head, or the feet. But what happens when you introduce a second or a third cat into the equation?
Things get a bit more complicated.
I bet. How does the geography of the bed change in a multi-cat household? Because I imagine that creates a whole new level of complexity.
It creates a fascinating, invisible web of social negotiation. In a multi-cat household, the bedroom is not just a place to sleep. It is a map of social standing and hierarchy.
Like a pack of wolves.
Not quite. Indoor domestic cats form complex social structures, but they aren't strictly hierarchical like wolves. Their hierarchies are often fluid and based on resource control.
And in the bedroom, what are the resources?
The primary resources are warmth, elevation, and you. When the lights go out, there is a silent negotiation for the prime real estate.
It sounds like a nightly game of territorial chess. Every cat is trying to figure out where they stand without causing an all-out brawl on top of the blankets.
That is a perfect way to describe it. And in this game of chess, the top cat, the individual with the most confidence and the highest social standing in that specific context, will almost always claim the high-status vantage point.
Which is the pillow or the headboard, like we talked about.
Exactly. It gives them direct access to the primary human resource and allows them to control the room visually.
So what happens to the other cats? Do they just get relegated to the floor? Or do they fight for the pillow?
It depends on the temperament of the cats, but generally subordinate cats, or cats that are more conflict-averse, will take up what behaviorists call buffer zones.
Buffer zones, what are those?
These are mid-level locations. They might sleep at the very foot of the bed, on a bench at the end of the bed, or on a nearby sturdy chair.
So they're still nearby.
Right. These buffer zones are brilliant social tools. They allow the subordinate cat to remain within the core social group. They are still in the bedroom with you, but they are maintaining enough physical distance to avoid challenging the top cat's claim to the high-status territory.
It is a way of coexisting peacefully. They're basically saying, I am here, but I am not looking for a fight.
Exactly.
But I'm sure that doesn't always go smoothly. What happens if two confident cats both decide they want that prime headboard real estate on a Tuesday night?
That is when you see nocturnal conflict.
Hmm.
And what is interesting is that feline conflict is often completely silent.
Really? No hissing or yowling?
Not usually. It's very subtle.
Hmm.
You might notice one cat sitting on the headboard engaging in a staring contest with the cat on the floor.
Just staring.
Yes. In the feline world, staring is a highly aggressive, highly effective form of resource guarding. A dominant cat can pin a subordinate cat in a corner using nothing but unblinking eye contact.
That's intense.
It is. If you see one of your cats hesitating at the bedroom door or slinking slowly along the baseboards to get to the bed, it means they're actively trying to navigate an invisible territorial blockade set up by another cat.
Okay, so if you are a pet parent to multiple cats and you realize your bedroom has become a passive-aggressive war zone, how do you fix it? How do you prevent this nightly turf war?
The most effective strategy is implementing a concept from environmental design called the rule of N+1.
The rule of N+1, let's break that down. What does the N stand for?
N simply stands for the number of cats you have in your home. The rule states that for critical resources like litter boxes, water bowls, and elevated resting surfaces, you should always provide one for every cat plus one extra.
Okay, so in the bedroom.
In the bedroom, you should have one more elevated resting surface than you have cats. If you have 2 cats, you need 3 elevated spots.
Wait, so if I have 3 cats, I need 4 beds in my room. Where do I even put them?
You have to utilize vertical space. The human bed counts as one surface. You might add a tall dresser with a comfortable heated mat on it as the second.
Oh, I see.
A dedicated tall cat tree in the corner is the third, and a floating wall shelf installed above a window could be the fourth.
I see. You are artificially expanding the prime real estate so they do not have to compete for the single vantage point on the human mattress.
Precisely. By providing multiple high-status options, you diffuse the social tension. You eliminate the scarcity of the resource. And it is also crucial to ensure there are no dead ends in your bedroom design.
Dead ends, like a corner.
Exactly. If you put a cat bed in a tight corner between a wardrobe and a wall, a subordinate cat might feel trapped if the dominant cat approaches. Every elevated spot should have at least 2 exit routes.
So they can always escape.
Yes. This reduces the fear of being cornered, which is a massive trigger for redirected aggression in multi-cat homes.
That is brilliant advice for the physical layout of the room. But what about the human element? Say you have 1 cat, but there are 2 people sleeping in the bed. Does the cat have a favorite? How do they choose which human to sleep on?
Cats absolutely have favorites, and their selection criteria are very specific and sometimes quite ruthless.
Ruthless, do tell.
First and foremost, they usually prefer the primary caregiver. This is the person who understands species-appropriate behavior, feeds them their wet food, grooms them, and engages in interactive play with a wand toy.
So the person putting in the work.
Exactly. As Dr. Vattel's study showed, the cat forms the strongest secure attachment to this person. However, when it comes to sleeping, there is a massive caveat that supersedes everything else.
Oh, what is the caveat?
Actigraphy studies, which measure sleep movement, show that cats are incredibly pragmatic when it comes to their sleep quality. They will actively reject their absolute favorite human if that human is a restless sleeper.
No way.
It's true. If one partner tosses, turns, snores loudly, kicks their legs, or gets up multiple times in the night to use the restroom, the cat will abandon them without hesitation.
Because it's annoying to them.
Yes. A cat wants warmth and security, but they also want uninterrupted sleep. They will almost always migrate to the side of the bed with the sound sleeper, even if that person isn't their primary caregiver during the day.
So let me get this straight. If you are the one spending your hard-earned money on expensive grain-free food, scooping the litter box every morning, and playing with the laser pointer for an hour, but you happen to snore like a chainsaw or have restless leg syndrome, your cat is going to sleep on your partner who does absolutely nothing but sleeps like a rock.
It is the ultimate feline pragmatism. They love you, but they love a good nap just a little bit more.
That is hilariously unfair, but completely logical given everything we have learned about their need for secure, uninterrupted sleep.
They prioritize their rest.
Which brings us to a really important practical part of our deep dive. We have explored the beautiful biology, the thermodynamics, and the heartwarming psychology behind why they want to sleep with us, but should we actually let them?
That is the million-dollar question.
Let's weigh the pros and the cons, because the veterinary sources are very clear that co-sleeping with a cat is not entirely without risk. Let's start with the good stuff. Beyond just feeling nice, why is it actually beneficial for human health to have a cat in the bed?